Good afternoon, everyone. We are Group 2, and today we will be exploring the focus of successful futurists. This presentation is brought to you by our team, Nima, Aya, Junaid, Farhan, Anas, Preksha, and Kayum. Together, we have dived into the methods that separate those who are surprised by the future from those who help shape it. Let's set the stage. The core science for organization today is anticipating the future in an era of rapid, disruptive change. Traditional strategic planning, which relies on linear extrapolation from the present, often fails when faced with this shift. The key insight is that forecasting is a learnable, systematic skill. It involves detecting weak signals at the fringe of society and technology before they become mainstream trends. However, companies face a major internal roadblock which we call the duality dilemma. This is the conflict between creative, right-brain thinkers who envision radical future but lack pragmatism and logical, left-brain thinkers who focus on risks and processes, often stifling innovation. This internal division can paralyze an organization, as famously seen in the fall of companies like BlackBerry. Our case study will examine the method used by successful futurists at firms like Google and IBM, focusing on a disciplined process called flare and focus to overcome this dilemma. Now, let's hear some key individual insights starting with me. I understand that to spot the future, we must look for contradiction and inflection point where the rate of change suddenly accelerates. I also advise watching for user hacks and learning from extreme behavior as these are often early signals. My strong opinions are that planning for a single, most likely future is a fantasy. Indeed, robust strategies request planning for multiple realities. I also believe that a numerical scoring system is crucial to force decisive actions and prevent endless research, and that true innovation is evolutionary, building on a foundation of existing research. Next, we'll have our further memory for further presentation.
Hello everyone. Let's look at the key takeaways from my Abdul Karim perspective. First, I believe that the tension between creative and logical people on a team is not a bad thing. In fact, it's an engine for sound foresight. The goal is not to make everyone the same, but to highlight and use each side's unique strengths. Second, we can see a clear difference between a futurist and an R&D team. A futurist is not just inventing a new product, they're helping the company navigate a whole new world. Third, we should pay close attention to rarities, those strands, one-off events. They are often the first signal that a system is about to break or transform. And finally, the test for any strategy is measurement. If we can track our impact on a trend, we are just watching it happen, not actually managing it. Thank you.
Hello all, I am Preksha and I would like to talk about the case study titled Focus of Successful Futurists. A truly successful strategy is the result of combining the analytical and intuitive, not just data, because this emotional reaction is a useful type of intelligence that synthesizes subtle patterns and risks. Dismissing a gut feeling about a future scenario is just as reckless as ignoring hard data. However, without the motivation to take action, this foresight is useless. A strategy must convey a strong and urgent need for change in order to fully mobilize the organization and its resources. Otherwise, it is essentially a blueprint for complacency. The strategic plan itself needs to be fundamentally rethought in light of this dynamic approach. The ability to recalibrate a strategy is more valuable in a volatile world than its rigidity. Instead of creating a set document, the aim is to create a framework that is adaptable and strong enough to handle change and quickly adjust when new information becomes available. This is important because planning for the future is not merely making predictions passively. It is an active call to create a desired future, acknowledging that every choice and action taken today is creating the future in the present tense. In conclusion, a powerful strategy functions as a living system, one that honors intuition, instills discipline, urgency, and prioritizes adaptability. It operates on the understanding that an organization is not merely preparing for a distant tomorrow, but is actively constructing its destiny through the choices it makes today. By treating emotions as data, embedding urgency into its core, and designing for flexibility, a company transforms its strategic process from a theoretical exercise into continuous and powerful engine for shaping its own world. Thank you.
Good day, everyone. On today's class, critical thinking, the idea of focus of successful futurists. What separates a successful futurist from a failed fortune teller? It's not a crystal ball. It's not a complex algorithm. It is a specific way of thinking. It comes down to two essential questions. According to our class insights, the entire process hinges on the balance between two phases, flaring and focusing. The flaring phase asks, what if? This is where critical thinking meets creativity. It's about expensive questions, exploring possibilities, implication, and even new identities. No idea is too wild here. The focusing phase asks, what's next? This is where logic takes over. It's about making decision choices, evaluating the best options, and committing to immediate actionable steps. As one of our key states, a team that only asks what if will never ship a product, but a team that only asks what's next will ship the wrong one. Critical thinking requires both. And you can't do this alone. Forecasting is not also a solo mission. It's a group sport. This is a powerful understanding. The composition of a team is more important than the methodology it uses. You can have the best model in the world, but if your team is made of people who all think the same way, you will have critical blind spots. Well, the best results came from a deliberately composed team, not a lone genius. So what's the point of all of this? Is it just to be right, to avoid being surprised? Not exactly. The highest value of forecasting isn't avoiding surprise, it's gaining the power to influence the outcome. The ultimate goal of seeing the future early is not just stand there and watch it come. It's to actively engage in building it. This is one of the core critical thinking for futurists. Shape, don't just predict. Use foresight to build the future you want, or shape the context to your advantage. So to think critically about future, remember balance your creative what ifs with your logical what's next. Build a diverse team to challenge your assumption and never forget the real goal isn't to predict the future, it's to have the power to shape it. Thank you for your time.
Good afternoon, everyone. Today I'm excited to share with you the insight of me on how successful futurists approach the challenge of predicting and shaping the future. My perspective is particularly relevant in today's rapidly changing world where traditional methods often fall short. Explore my opinion and understanding that can guide us toward a more strategic and proactive future. I believe that companies focus on mainstream trend, missing the real innovation happening at the edge. This can lead to missed opportunities and failure to adapt to real change. I agree that brainstorming without a structured progress is just a guesswork. We need a method to refine and validate our ideas to ensure they are actionable and relevant. I point out that the conflicts between creative thinker and logical thinker often hinder progress. Companies need to find a way to harness this reality to drive innovation. I emphasize that passion is crucial in futurism. It's about identifying the significant patterns amidst the noise, not just creating to every trend. I understand that early signs of the future are found at bargains, where harkens academic and technological experiments. This is where innovation truly begins. I advocate for a method that alternate between broad, open-minded brainstorming, flowering, and narrow, articulated decision-making focusing. This balance is key to effective forecasting. I believe that successful teams integrate both creative and logical thinker, using their enhanced attention productively. This duality can drive innovation and strategic thinking. I understand that isolate science and meaningless. The key is identifying risky trace points and converging into genius durable trend. This focus on pattern help is making informed decisions. In conclusion, my insights provide a valuable framework for thinking about the future. By observing the friend, harnessing duality, and focusing on patterns, we can better anticipate and shape the future. Let's apply this understanding to our strategic planning and decision-making process. Thank you for your attention.
I'm Farhan. To identify emerging trends early, futurists focus on the fringe rather than the mainstream. The fringe is where innovation happens, where hackers, technologists, and academics push boundaries, test new ideas, and experiment. By observing contradictions, inflections, practices, hacks, extremes, and rarities, futurists can spot early signs of significant change. But simply spotting patterns isn't enough. Futurists must balance creativity with logic. This is where the main method of flaring and focusing comes in. Flaring is the broad thinking phase, where you gather as many ideas as possible and consider different perspectives. Focusing, on the other hand, narrows those ideas down, identifies patterns, and helps determine where the trend is ready to take off. However, identifying trends is not only a part of the equation. Once a trend is discovered, it is critical to test your strategy. It is robust enough to adapt to unexpected shifts. Does it offer unique value? Can your organization pivot as the trend evolves? By continuously balancing these dual approaches, broad creative thinking and narrow focused action, organizations can position themselves ahead of the curve. Ultimately, forecasting is not about predicting the future, it's about entirely shaping it. Those who can spot trends early can create strategies and adapt as necessary will be the best position to lead in an ever-changing landscape. By embracing both creativity and logic, we can not only anticipate what's to come but also help to build it.
Everyone, my name is Mohammad Abu Zunaid, and today I'll be talking about our case study and my individual opinions. My strong belief is that relying on one most likely forecast is a strategic vulnerability. We must actively map out several deeply distinct features because certainty is an illusion in today's environment. The key to effective strategy is uncertainty, its adaptability. Secondly, I believe we often paralyze ourselves by endlessly researching. Setting a specific objective threshold for action, like the scoring model suggests, is vital. It forces us to stop analyzing and start acting, preventing the organization from getting stuck in an academic loop. Also, a strategic plan is essentially a hypothesis. If we don't subject that hypothesis to the most aggressive, difficult, and counterintuitive questions, essentially trying to break it, it won't survive first contact with reality. Finally, we need to recognize that true innovation never happens in a vacuum. It's always evolutionary, not a sudden bolt from the blue. Every new technology stands on the shoulders of the entire history of research that came before it. Now, moving on to my individual understandings, my understanding solidified around 4 operational necessities for modern forecasting. We must develop scenarios that cover the full spectrum of potential outcome, from what we expect to what seems wildly improbable. To truly stress test our strategy, we need to use a numerical likelihood score not just as a probability estimate, but as a clear timing mechanism for action. If the score is low, we wait and gather more data. If it is high, we must execute immediately. A strategy is only sound if it's been vetted for robustness. Does it offer unique value? Do we have the resources to change course if needed? These are the essential, rigorous questions we must ask. We must view the future of continuous flow of interconnected forces. Technology, politics, culture, and the economy are all moving and influencing each other. None of them operate in isolation. Now, moving on to our group outcome, our group discussion resulted in clear consensus regarding the required cultural and methodological shift necessary for success in future work. Group opinion. Our group's main opinion is that conventional management practices are actively toxic to foresight. The focus on strict efficiency and predictable harmony stifles at the very massive messiness and divergent thinking required to envision new markets. We strongly agree that the tension between our creative dreamers and our logical process thinkers, the duality dilemma, must be seen as sources of power. We must actively manage that conflict because it's the friction that generates sound strategy, not a problem to be solved or avoided. Furthermore, if we weren't generating a large volume of ideas, we weren't pushing boundaries. Innovation requires an acceptance of failure because you must try a lot of things that you don't work to find few that will. Also, obsessing over what current customers say they want often locks into incremental thinking. To achieve radical change, we must look beyond our existing base and listen to the fringe to see what's truly emerging. Ultimately, a strategy is worthless unless it carries two traits: urgency and agility. It must mobilize the team with clear intent, but it also must be elastic enough to incorporate new information the moment it appears. Group understandings. Our group reached a solid understanding of the high-level steps required for the collective approach. We must become fringe dwellers. Our primary intelligence work has to focus gathering weak signals from innovators and outsiders operating at the margins, not just tracking competitors in the mainstream. We need to master the oscillation between the wide open brainstorming and structured decision making. This dynamic of flaring and focusing in the operating rhythm that allows us to harness both creative impulse and the logical vetting. To translate chaos into pattern, we must apply a structured classification system like CIPHER framework. To categorize and organize the unusual observation gathered from the fringe, we understand that the purpose of all this work is just to see what's coming, but to actively influence the competitive landscape, we are seeking to build the context for our preferred future, not passively wait for it to arrive. Thank you so much for listening. We are open for all kind of questions. If you have any, please let us know.